I've been trying to say that.
You have represented Henry County for years now.
Listen, it's just now getting.
It's the park system we're talking about.
That's
I did talk further with the superintendent of schools, and they're not letting any, opposite sex in now. To identify leaders. They're taking the private bathroom. I talked to my daughter, who's a third grade teacher, and not home. Says, oh yeah, we're dealing with it. So we got a girl down here. First grade. All right, you ready to roll? Or I'm ready. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's meeting of the Board of Directors of the Kentuckiana Planning and Development Agency. I'm David Vogel, Oldham County Judge Executive. Happy to have you here today on Thursday, July 28th. Welcome to all. And that's Jared to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable John Black. Honorable Bernard Bowling.
Here.
Honorable John Logan Brent.
Here.
Honorable Sean Carruthers.
Here.
Honorable Byron Chapman. Honorable Beverly Chester Burton. Honorable Jack Kaufman.
Here.
Mr. Matt Mine for the Honorable Bill Dura.
Here.
Mr. Brian Dixon. Honorable David Eaton. Mr. Kevin Beatty for the Honorable Ryan Ramsey.
Here.
Miss Lena Muldoon for the Honorable Greg Fisher.
Here.
Honorable Jeff Gahan. Mr. Keith Griffey.
Here.
Mr. Albert Tubby Purcell for the Honorable Treva Hodges.
Here.
Honorable, Mr. Dan Eisen for the Honorable, the Honorable John Park for the Honorable Dan Eisen.
Either way.
Mr. Andy Crouch for the Honorable Mike Moore. Honorable Todd Pollock.
Here.
Honorable John Riley.
Here.
Honorable Joe Robinson. Honorable Jerry Summers. Gotcha. Honorable Rick Tonini.
Here.
Honorable Jim Travis.
Here.
And the Honorable David Vogel.
Here.
We have a very strong quorum today.
All right, having a sufficient number of members present, this meeting's now in session. I'd like to call on the Honorable Bernard Bowling for a presentation of the minutes.
Does anyone have any changes or alterations to the minutes, or can we have a motion to approve them?
So motion.
Motion and second. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now, next item, number 5, is the town pope with our financial statement for June.
Thank you. Item number 5 is, starts on page 27, and it's the report through January through June.
An email because
And we still have some expenses that are coming in. We're trying to get all of our invoices in. So there'll be some changes, but not anything that's going to be major. That definitely nothing that will cause a problem. Some of these percentages overall are a low rate of the budget, but as we've talked previously, that we've got a lot of the money that's budgeted in 22 is available. The revenues are available to carry forward. So the fact that some of these have a low percentage of expenditure is not surprising or alarming. And the rest of the report is the agency-wide line item revenues, and it's not showing that there's any problems there that we need to worry about. And you might see some lines of expenditure that might be over. I think we've also talked previously in some of our meals programs, because there's been money added. There's been more money spent than had been anticipated originally, but the funds are definitely there. And if you see something like that, it's not a cause for concern. The final part of the report is the balance sheet, and it starts on page 34, and it shows we're in a sound financial position. I'll be glad to answer any questions anyone might have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Pope? Hearing none,
That's for $260 to join, and then $10 as a member, so probably is cheaper to do it, but I didn't know if you wanted the city of St. Matthew to be a member of the little forum.
Please be sure for those on the screen.
I
to
don't
mute your
know, I have
mic.
to look at it and see
Okay.
what,
I'll make that motion.
all right, we have a motion to approve the finance committee. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, number 6, we're happy to,
Did get a petition.
we ask everybody to please close your mic on, who's ever on Zoom. Please close your mics.
I was not going to give it or to any of the council members until it
Mayor Tanini, if you would please mute your microphone.
Unmuted. Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now via Zoom, we're happy to welcome a very, very familiar face, Shelley Hampton from KIPDA, KEICO. We got a KEICO meeting going on right now, Shelley?
Actually, no, not right this second, but we've had a
Okay.
few this week.
All right, good. Well, sometimes KEICO, I'm on both these boards and sometimes they meet at the same time, but in 2 different cities. So I've chosen to come here. But
Thank
you. But it's costing me not to be there. So, all right, Shelley, happy to have you here. Go ahead and give us all a report.
All right, well, Chairman Vogel and Jarrett, thank you so much for the invitation. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for the invitation. It's always great to be able to capture so many local government folks in one setting and to join you all. I told Jared earlier I'd meant to be there in person, but our own executive committee met today and it just would not have worked out timing wise. But I do appreciate the Zoom option and appreciate the invitation for being here. I know, and I'm sure you all probably talked about this maybe before I got on. I know that all of us are thinking about the folks in Eastern Kentucky who are dealing with the historic, devastating flooding that has taken place there. That's affecting so many counties and cities overnight this morning, and more rain coming their way. So we certainly keep them in our thoughts and our prayers today. It's going to be a long road for a lot of communities. There's a lot going on right now. I think I'll try to go in chronological order. I don't want to spend a lot of time unless there's questions about the 2022 session. It was a great session for county governments. That's what happens when you have a lot of money at the state level. There's been a lot of historic federal dollars due to the pandemic that has come down to county governments. And so that certainly helped for one budget session where we did not have to sustain a lot of significant cuts. We are certainly grateful to our stakeholders that helped us work, which is all of our affiliate members here at KEICO to advance the county cause during the session. But we could not have done it without our members. So I want to thank the county members who are present today for all of the work that they did on our behalf to advance our legislation. Certainly one of the biggest issues that I know that every county deals with is jail costs. It's been several years. I believe it's been about 11 or 12 since the per diem that counties are paid by the state for housing state inmates has been increased. We were very grateful to work with Chairman Petrie and Chairman McDaniel, the A&R chairs in the respective chambers, to get a badly needed $4 increase in the per diem It'll go from 31.34 to 35.34 a day. And hopefully that is sustainable from now on. Of course, we'll have to fight for that every budget session going forward. Something else from COVID for jails that we sorely needed was video arraignment help. A lot of that was the only way an arraignment occurred during the heavy days of the pandemic. There was some money for video arraignment to help counties because that is not an inexpensive endeavor. And that's been put on hold a little bit over the last year while the legislature did annual budgets. And so this year there was specific language that this money is to go to jail, video arraignments in jails, and those are going to be grants totaling $15 million through the Department of Local Government. Another area where counties were impacted as well was transportation. We got a 2-year road plan like we normally do with every biennium. The 2-year road plan was submitted, and there was extra money for county road aid, almost 141 million in FY23 and 137, almost 138 in the next fiscal year. Rural secondary also gained some traction as well, which is helpful for state roads and counties. The mega projects, I'm sure we're all familiar by now with the Brent Spence Bridge, the Interstate I-69 at Henderson, and of course the Mountain Parkway. And the state has chosen to set aside $250 million to help secure a federal grant for one of those 3 mega projects. And I'm going to save EV, electric vehicle fees, for just a little bit. And a couple more things: broadband, water and sewer, all ARPA dollars. I'm sure we're all familiar with ARPA by now, but there has been finally something that most states have already had in place, and that was an establishment of an Office of Broadband Deployment, a centralized location where local governments, providers, etc., would be able to go for a one-stop shop for all things broadband deployment. We are grateful to several legislators for helping with this and making sure that broadband deployment starts with unserved and underserved areas and goes from there. That's certainly where the need is greatest. And so we're glad to see that office. I'm told the executive director should be hired within the next 30 days. I have not heard a name yet, but looking forward to that. And again, water and sewer, $250 million more from the state's version of ARPA for drinking and wastewater. And so that can only be good for county governments. There are a lot of other bills that I could spend time on. The budget was very good to counties. As you all know, we are political subdivisions of the state, written into the Constitution to carry out many state functions at the county level. And as such, we work hard every 2 years or whenever there's a budget to get adequately reimbursed for the expenses that eat up the majority of every county's budget, whether it's for jails, roads, animal control, elections, etc. And so this is probably the best budget that I have ever seen in my time working on behalf of counties. And so I want to shift quickly in the interest of time, unless there's questions about the 2022 session, about what's going on in the interim. There's a few task forces that impact county government. One of those is the Bourbon Barrel Task Force. And I see a few county judges who are heavily interested in that issue. The task force is chaired by Representative Chad McCoy from Nelson County out of the House, and President Robert Stivers of the Senate from Clay County. And that Bourbon Barrel Task Force has met twice and has discussed the impact of the state signature industry, which of course we all support in one way or another, whether it's through our own personal support or through jobs, through roads, through industrial revenue bonds. Several ways that counties, even through just their general fund dollars, have supported that industry and done its part certainly to help it grow and thrive, and wish to continue to see that. However, the task force has been tasked with only looking at what would happen if there were a repeal of the local ad valorem tax. This would impact some counties tremendously in Kentucky, and that is the challenge of the task force, is if that were to be repealed, how would we keep those entities whole? How would you keep schools whole? And both of those meetings are available online if you haven't had the chance to see them. We've had some county judges and school superintendents, even sheriffs that have attended those. We hope to be given the opportunity to go to the table in August or September to be able to tell the county side of this, and to certainly do whatever we can to work as collaboratively as practical with the Kentucky Distillers Association, who have been pushing this issue for pretty much the entire time of my career to try to get rid of that tax. And so we have a heavy involvement in that task force. Another task force that was created from legislation that passed this session is an emergency medical services task force. As you all may be familiar with House Bill 777, that bill modified the certificate of need process, and it was a challenging bill. We were brought in February and told that this was going to pass in some form or fashion. Certainly the Kentucky Hospital Association was in favor of getting rid of the certificate of need process altogether in Kentucky. Those of us that pay the bill had a different point of view. So there's been a bill that passed with a 4-year limit on some of the modifications, some of the easing of the different types of review in order to get a license to operate an ambulance service. One of the items out of the bill was this task force, because there wasn't enough time to dig deeper into all of the issues surrounding ambulatory service. Certainly, counties are hurting with recruitment, with retention, with paramedics being able to go work in a hospital. And so all of that combined with, higher costs for all of us, business and government, as well as if you're in need of an ambulance, it takes quite a long time to get that as well. So it was just a perfect storm of, how do we address this issue, the issue of smaller rural counties and cities not being able to find a private party that wants to take on their city or county when it's frankly not that lucrative. They're in that business to make a profit, and we understand that. But the certificate of need process was softened for cities and counties if they can show that there is that need in their community. But the task force originally had an appointee from KCO. But at the end of the day, the bill also said that the final makeup of the committee would be up to the legislature. And so they chose to go the route of appointing only legislators and none of the folks who were named in the bill, people like the Kentucky Firefighters Association, the counties, the cities, et cetera. And so they've had one meeting and where they discussed the state of ambulance service in the state of Kentucky. It is fairly dire in parts of the state, and in other parts there seems to be very good coverage. And so it's going to be a challenge for some consensus to be built, but we hope to work with all those parties involved. There's a lot, as you can imagine. So those two are a primary focus as far as task forces from the legislature go. Another issue that we are working on that's really geared more for 2023 and beyond, and it's one we've worked on for the last 5 years, is transportation funding. And I don't think I have to tell this group the situation. We are in need of more road funding, and while we did get a little bit more in this session for county and rural municipal aid, that is not sustainable. It is a one-time thing. We've tried for several years with about 40 different stakeholders to increase the gas tax, because that is the only way out of all of the funds that feed into the what we all call the road fund. Cities and counties only get funding from the gas tax. Of course, with the Ford announcement with the battery plants headed to Hardin County, and one, or I think two, maybe in Tennessee as well, the electric vehicles took center stage last summer. we have been having conversations about the fee that was finally passed onto electric vehicles, because as we all know, they don't pay into the gas tax. So they don't pay into the road fund, but they certainly use it. So we're continuing to push for a proportionate amount of any fees from electric vehicles or electric charging stations. There was a fee attached to both, to the charging stations and the fees. And you may be aware, I know ads play a big role in transportation, that the federal government has required a charging station plan to be submitted next month by every state. They have to be no more than 50 miles apart, and there's several caveats that each state has to meet in order to draw down that funding from the federal governments. And so that's going to be one of our primary goals. Our board in September, Judge Vogel will discuss the issues that we want to pursue. Obviously, our primary looks when we're concerning legislation are no unfunded mandates, and that home rule continues to be protected. Those two are strong pillars for our folks who have very limited means of raising revenue. We did try to pass a constitutional amendment to allow the legislature to consider other forms of revenue for local governments. One example of that would have been a local sales tax option, but that's just one example of many. We are working right now to compile a list of what other states allow their county governments to do. It would be nice to be able to see what works in Oldham County may not work in Floyd County, and vice versa. And so we're continuing to have those tax reform conversations with leadership in both chambers. And at that, I will stop and be glad to take any questions or comments that you all might have.
Does anyone, thank you, Shelley. Does anyone here have any questions they'd like to ask about the legislature or activities in Frankfurt that Shelley may be able to give us some insight on? I think you've done a good job, Shelley. As far as does the state, what's being talked about in relation to capital projects? Inflation is pushing the cost of everything built across the state up. Is there any, we hear the governor say the state has $1 billion surplus or something, but is there any general discussion about how to address some of these issues for counties that are trying to build things?
Well, so certainly at the state level, the idea that the budget may need to be opened, that's a rumor going around that goes around every year. There's not supposed to be a budget open, that because of the cost of inflation, certainly with the road fund, that is something as you're all painfully aware of trying to buy asphalt. But I have not heard anything specific for counties as far as trying to help with the rising cost of everything that we're all trying to purchase. But I think that that conversation has certainly been had with leadership on our part in discussing tax reform as well.
Thank you.
Ask her about the 250 million that she says the governor has for water and sewer projects around the state. How is that being handled, and do you expect any of that to be delivered out of the state anytime soon?
Did you hear that, Shelley?
I heard something about 250 million in
way
the
back,
water and sewer.
2 or 3 months ago, all the ads were asked to make presentations in Frankfurt to the governor in relation to a $250 million water and sewer grant money that they had. But I don't think anybody has heard anything come out since then about where any of that money is, or if it's being distributed, or.
Shelley, he's referencing, obviously there are so many pots of money, it's confusing. There's the 250 million for the water and wastewater, which Justin can speak to, but I think he is referring to the PDI, the economic development with the PDI program.
Is that what?
Yeah, so that program was started a couple of years ago with just $6 million. And I think now, as Jarrett said, they're up to 250 million. But I have not heard, I know that there's been a change at the leadership at the Kentucky Association for Economic Development. I don't know if that has had an impact, because I know they are supposed to be working hand in hand with the Cabinet for Economic Development in order to take those grants, have you all submit those, and then sift through those and give out that money. It's $100 million. It's the same grant application that was in place 2 years ago, allocated by county based on population. And that's pretty much all I have heard about on that one.
Okay.
So to go along with that, was that just a dog and pony show that we all went to Frankfurt for? This may be a Jared question, not even a Shelley question, but when we all went and made those proposals, was that just like a PR stunt?
It was to demonstrate the need and to show that there is need for that funding. So the way that was used was where the legislators saw that there are many projects throughout the Commonwealth that could use that funding to help get those economic development sites up and running with businesses. Danielle sat in on a webinar here recently. Danielle, if you would like to speak a little bit.
So they've held one webinar, they're gonna hold a second one. So I believe, I can send an email out after we're get some specific details from that, just put some highlights. The applications for that proposal, I don't think are due until it's next month, sometime before those applications are due for that. There are some requirements, like the property is supposed to be government owned property. There are some parameters to the PDI application proposal. So it's not, your project may or may not qualify based on those parameters. So I will send out an email to y'all from the highlights that I found out from the first webinar series. I don't want to misquote anything here.
We might not be talking about the same thing here. There's so much. We are so much.
It seems like it's gone from an informal process to a formal.
It has. It's now there's a $500 application fee with it,
All right.
and those amounts that are determined by county, that's the maximum amount per county, not
Exactly.
what your award's going to be. It's the most that you can receive. per
Exactly. So
county.
it's the maximum amount that could go to a county. Is that they call it an allocation, but they made it very clear that doesn't mean that it's a guarantee that funding will go to that county. You will go through an application process, and if they've hired a third party, a third party will be reviewing it and evaluating it based on the return of investment of the application that's submitted. So no one at the Kentucky Association of Economic Development nor the state will actually be evaluating the proposal. So I will send it there's a handful of points that I can send out that I can confirm. And then I plan on attending the second webinar that they're having to hopefully flesh out, get into a little bit more detail. And I will pass along that information as it comes in. I believe it was the double check.
As Shelley said, KIPDA has got a new director, so I think that slowed everything down. We have heard through some side channels that they're going to be reaching out to the area development districts to assist with the applications, but we don't know what that looks like at this point.
And we also don't know anything about the $50 million that was allocated towards mega sites. And we did have a couple of presentations from the region related to mega sites. They did not speak to that during the webinar, even when requested. So I do not know how those are being addressed either. So hopefully we'll find that out soon.
Okay. Any questions for Shelley here? Other ones? So.
Well, to go back to Mayor Black's question earlier with the water and sewer, that's going to operate similar to how it was last year with the county allocations. Justin's already scheduled the county meetings. I think he was out in Trimble County earlier this morning. So he'll be coming to the county to get consensus on projects, and then we'll submit those on to KIA.
Anyone else? Well, Shelley, thank you for being here today. We'll invite you to come in person sometime, and this will save you a few steps being on the screen. So
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the good representation you put forward for all the counties, and we have city people here today too. And I know they have good representation from the League of Cities. So thank you very much.
They do. And thank you all. We appreciate the partnership with our ad friends. So thanks.
Okay,
Thank you, Shelley.
A few months ago, when we went as KIPDA to the presentation that we made at the History Center in Frankfurt to the governor, I thought for sure that Henry County, Judge Brett made a great presentation there. I walked over, I said, "You got that $1 million nailed down." And sorry, it's hoping that hadn't slipped off the table here, but it was, you had a good presentation for some development at Campbellsburg, and Yeah.
I know you guys got it figured out. I was one of only 20 Democrats left in the whole state. I thought for sure I'd get my last $1 million.
Yeah.
Y'all mobilized.
Well, we'll be glad to support you. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Okay, next item, Transportation, the Policy Committee, Andy Rush.
Thank you very much. Good to see you, everybody. I guess somebody from all 9 counties today. Good to see you all in the room. TPC, we just met here in this room at 12:30. Several of you all attended. I'll highlight a couple of the agenda items, 4 perhaps. Nick Bale of our staff presented what's known as Amendment 8 to our long-range plan and to our transportation improvement program. Relatively small amendment, 3 projects. One in Clarksville, one in an NDOT project, a rest area, a truck parking addition in Henryville, Indiana, or near Henryville, Indiana. And then last but certainly not least, Judge Summers is the repaving of I-65, 6 miles of I-65. Big project to repave or rehab some of that very distressed pavement that's down there. So hopefully there's more of that to come.
That's where all the money goes, right? From both counties.
It's a lot of money. It was a lot of money. Next, Elizabeth Park, she presented our project evaluation process. So for that long-range plan and transportation improvement program, that long and short-range program, those are both going to be updated early next year to be adopted by the TPC, probably in or around February, March, April timeframe. We have a new scoring system that's new and improved, that's streamlined, that is taking a fresh look at it and consolidating some of the things in hopes of a transit project and a bicycle bed project and a roadway project. All the best of each of those 3 things can all compete very evenly. We found last time that a project that did all of them, which is a good project, is just swamped the project. That's an awesome project of just one type. So we want to make sure it's a little bit more fair. That's one of several changes there. Greg Burris spoke about our Indiana MPO conference. KIPDA is hosting that in Jeffersonville on October 4th. I was talking about it last time, I believe, and I'll keep talking about it probably until we host it. So I encourage everybody to, if you're interested in attending and learning a little bit about not just what's going on in the KIPDA world, but in the Indiana, in some of the small towns and urban areas in Indiana, and go on a couple tours and have some after-hours events too. This is the first in-person one, so in 3 years. So we are really excited to be on the hook to host it. But all things are going good. We've got some good sponsorships. We've got a lot of registrants so far and counting, and then we've got some good speakers lined up. Last but not least, a lot of the TPC meeting discussion was on this a new grant opportunity known as Safe Streets for All grant. And this grant is unique in that states, state DOTs are not eligible applicants for this, okay? It's only regional forms of government and local governments. And so KIPDA is seeking, as many of y'all know, to put together a 9-county application for this grant, urban and rural, which is unique for us on the transportation side, it really is. So what we're looking to do now is create what they call an action plan. Action plan says, has a mix of traditional crash analysis that's locating your high crash areas, that's part of it, no doubt, but also trying to identify systemic issues, predictive type things for crashes. And so we're looking at developing an action plan that we're targeting about $750,000 grant. 150,000 or 20,000, 150,000 or 20% would be the local match. Okay. And so we have met with many of y'all, and hopefully have strongly considered it. We've got a lot, probably about maybe half that have committed so far. We've got some others that are in negotiations, perhaps, or in consideration. And very important to this conversation is the commitment from Louisville Metro. I do not want to underestimate that. Louisville Metro already has a plan. You've got to do an action plan to get the construction dollars, implementation dollars later. Louisville Metro already has one of these, but they are joining us as a co-partner, and so they're kicking in 2/3 of the match money, by the way. And so the match burden on everybody else is much less than it would be without them. So I want to give them a shout out. And so I hope for those that are on the fence, I hope We can do some convincing. We'd love to talk to you and help convince you to join the group, so to speak, because I really do think that if it's not these dollars, it's Safe Streets for All dollars down the road, it'll be other dollars that come available a year from now, 5 years from now, when we have it. So we'll be a good safety plan for each and every one. We're gonna make sure there is something in there for each and every one. That's all I have about the TPC committee, or TPC meeting. If there's any questions, we have to take.
Any questions for Andy? Motion to approve his report.
Motion, Bernie.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, transportation contracts, Andy.
So this month I have 3 for your consideration. I believe they're in the meeting packet. The first one is a renewal of an annual contract that KIPDA has with Kentucky Transportation Cabinet to update and maintain the road center lines. So our GIS departments, it's a never-ending process to maintain those things when there's new roads, when roads are reconstructed, type things, keep those under wraps. And so that's a renewal of that contract. It is consistent with prior year's funding. Chairman Vogel, would you prefer to take all 3 at once?
Yes, that's fine with me unless there are objections. I see none, go ahead.
Okay, fair enough. The second one is what's known as section 5303 funding. Those are the funds that come to this region, this urbanized area region, to be more specific, from FDA. So in Kentucky, those get passed through KYTC's Office of Transportation Delivery. So again, these are FTA or Federal Transit Administration funds being passed through KYTC to KIPDA to do Metropolitan Transportation Planning. So that's the second one on the list. That is in the same amount, $250,000, and that comes with the local match provided by KIPDA as it normally does. The third and final one, last but not least, is the annual contract between KIPDA and NDOT. NDOT, unlike KYTC, consolidates their annual contract with us. And so they put 4 funding streams into one contract, okay? So those $5303 I just mentioned for Kentucky, same thing, right? That's in there, that's one of the 4. There is the Metropolitan Planning Funds, that's the biggest chunk. Those are funds that we approved, that you all approved, I believe last month before last on the Kentucky side of it, by the way. There's a CMAQ, Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Grant. That money gets passed through KIPDA to Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control District for their CARE program, KAIRE, Kentucky Air Education Program. And then last but not least, there is the Surface Transportation Block Grant Funds, STBG funds from Indiana, which go directly to the Every Commute Counts regional rideshare program that KIPDA administers. So again, 4 funding streams consolidated in one contract. That's how it has been. Worth noting, the CMAQ and STBG dollars are the same as prior years. Good news is that the PL, Metropolitan Planning Funds, and the 5303 funds are up, and they're up by a big percentage. I think it's somewhere 20–25%, big number. So now, whether or not that buys, for the inflationary pressures that we were talking about last time, whether or not that helps or not, it might help a little bit. So maybe not a lot. So again, those are the 3 contracts that I'm presenting in requesting action for your approval.
Your motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Second. Any discussion on these contracts? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ryan Lloyd now, number 9, Regional Planning Council report.
Good to see y'all. I'll be giving a quick report, just update on the regional planning council meeting. We had the first one of the fiscal year on March 12th at 11 a.m. We began the meeting with some general KIPDA updates. I think I began by giving updates on the cleaner water projects that Justin and I have been working on. He'll probably be filling you in on some more details. And also, as Jared mentioned earlier, there is a second round of funding that's kicking off for that. So we've begun the process of reaching out to the local water management councils to meet about those projects and priorities in the county. In addition to that, I also gave a quick overview on the resiliency plan that Jennifer Wilson, our team member, is working on. She hasn't released too many details on that yet. She just started working on it a little while ago, but that is also something that is underway. And then finally, for KIPDA updates, our former team member, Hayden Candle, gave a update on the 5-year update on our comprehensive economic development strategy plan, SES plan. So I disseminated a survey that she is looking for responses on that for following the meeting. And then, yeah, she just gave some general updates on where that plan is at and what is going to be happening with that going into the future. Following those KIPDA updates, we also got some updates from some other folks in our counties. So Brian Davis with Louisville Metro gave some updates on Louisville Metro's changes to its land development code. In addition, Mr. Ryan Lipke from Shelby County gave an update on their comp plan they've been working on. And then Judge Pollock with Trimble County just stated some of the general updates and then working on expanding broadband connectivity and water connection projects that we've been working on them with that discussion on that. And then for our speaker, just like to highlight a few things that she talked about. We had Miss Hilda Legg from Broadband Communities, which is a nationwide publication on broadband expansion and access. She works in this region as the rural broadband consultant. So I wanted to get somebody in to speak on broadband just with some of the changes that are happening with House Bill 320, I believe, that is going to be providing some money through ARPA for broadband expansion at our state. She was very knowledgeable and was able to kind of provide a roadmap going forward for some of the funding opportunities that are going to be coming down the pike for broadband expansion. Among those, she talked about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is also some funding that's coming through ARPA, and the Affordable Connectivity Program, which is going to be the program that's taking shape for the next few years to provide some more funds at the federal level for broadband expansion. So this is going to be something that it was very informative for me. It's going to be something that I'm going to try and stay abreast of going forward, just to make sure we are looking into some of those options to expand that infrastructure. She also highlighted the importance of that infrastructure in addition to some more of the traditional things like water and wastewater infrastructure, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Expanding high-speed internet access to communities is essential, whether it's working from home or applications for jobs, anything like that. So yeah, it was good to have her come in and speak on that. And that concluded the meeting. There was no additional public comments, and we adjourned shortly after that. This concludes my report on this.
Anybody have any questions for Ryan? I might have one if you could answer. About 6 months ago, we approved some group for about $40,000, I believe, to do a study of several counties in here in regard to broadband. What's the status of that study?
I can speak to that. They have met with every single county to provide their analysis with the exception of Jefferson. Jefferson is scheduled next week for the Floyd's Fork area. So every county has had their meeting with that group. And it has proved to be very, very light, very informative. They've done a fantastic job.
Did you think that information generated by that study is going to support people in some of these other cash flow opportunities that might be coming down the line here?
Absolutely. One of the most beneficial aspects of what Breaking Point Solutions provided was they provided a spreadsheet to each of the counties that allows them to do just that, do some financial modeling to help plan. So when they want to partner with an ISP and maybe our ISP wants a certain person, certain counties present so much, maybe, and you're allowed to adjust the different financial resources that you have to put towards that versus the level of infrastructure that you're trying to put in. So maybe you end up not getting enough money for full fiber, but you can make some adjustments to figure out what level and at what expense that's going to cost you. So it really gives the county a really nice tool, a financial planning tool to partner with these ISP providers. And all of the information for each of the counties is provided in an individual URL link that's password protected, so anybody in the county can have access to it. It is owned by the county. It's not owned by Rentals Point Solutions. And you can hand that information off to any ISP partner that you want to provide, you want to partner with. So if there's somebody that you have established a good relationship with, and you want to continue to do so for some additional projects, they highly recommend that you pass that URL over to them, because it's full of plenty of valuable information that can be used to tackle those projects. Because getting broadband, especially in some of our rural communities, is quite the challenge, and it gives them the tools to do so. So it's been really great.
Okay. Any other questions here? All right, motion to approve Ryan's report, please.
I'll make a motion to approve Ryan's report. He did an excellent job.
Yeah, didn't he? I agree with that.
So do we have a second?
Second.
All right.
Get something out of it.
All in favor, please say aye. Motion approved. All right, now it's Justin Carter, Regional Water Council.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Board. The KIPDA Regional Water Management Council met here on July 12th at 1:30. We had a hybrid format version, like we're going to continue on with that. It helps with our attendance. It was on Zoom and here in the Burke Room at 1:30. And we had Russell Neal with the Division of Water join us as our guest speaker. He gave a presentation on the bipartisan infrastructure law and the state revolving fund priority guidance development. We discussed EPA's bill priorities and the Kentucky bill capitalization grant amounts. It's going to be a little different this year. We're going to have a couple of different pools for SRF funding. We're going to have one for emerging contaminants. KIPDA and myself, we're going to work with the University of Louisville's Ken Byron Institute on a PFAS study, hopefully with the city of Shepherdsville to test for PFAS in their drinking or their wastewater. So he kind of gave us a better idea of the money that's going to be funding for emerging contaminants pool, and also gave us information about the lead service line replacement pool that's going to be offered through the state revolving fund loan programs this year for drinking and clean water. The council was introduced to our new GIS specialist. She's not very new. She's new in her role as the WRS, the Water Resource Information System, KIA contract that we have. Her name is Anne Marie Zachra. She would introduce herself, and she's going to be taking over the role as the mapping coordinator for that, since Zachra has been promoted to GIS director here recently. Then I gave a presentation on SRF and how it is very important for everybody to get their project profiles up to speed, and that be in the know of the intended use plan and the priority system guidance document, which basically spells out how those projects are ranked and the scoring criteria, because the call for projects opens up in September every year, closes in December. We've kind of had an issue in the years previously where a lot of people wait to the last minute. It's just very important to be knowledgeable about what the scoring criteria is, so we're not waiting to the last minute and trying to get projects in that aren't going to be eligible or going to be invited for funding. So we just discussed that, and hopefully this year when the call for projects opens up in September, everybody will be privy to how that process works, and we'll get that started on that earlier than later. We approved 5 new projects. There were 3 new water projects and 2 new wastewater projects. The water projects were the US 60 water meter reconnects and tie-ins in Shelby County. That's going to be with West Shelby. And then we had a city of Newcastle and Henry County. They're going to have a Main Street water main replacement project. And the last one for water was Carbon Creek Road, Loudon Lane water line extension in Trimble County that Judge Pollock helped us to get started. And then for the sewer projects, we have the Shepherdsville Sewer PFAS project.
Pollock, talking about you.
Just told you guys, I informed you all about. And then we also have the Milton Wastewater Treatment Plant Replacement Plan project. This is a huge project in Trimble County. Basically, the wastewater treatment plant is in a floodplain, and we really need to get that either replaced or sent along to Carrollton Utilities to treat their effluent. But yeah, everyone in the Milton and Trimble County area, really, that's a huge priority for them. So all those projects were approved. And then, as Jared was mentioning earlier, the second round of cleaner water program, the funding has now come out. All the county allocations have been released. I held mine with Trimble County this morning. That went very smoothly. We have 5 projects that are going to be receiving funding for that. And I'll be already scheduled all of the county council meetings with all of your all's other respective counties. We'll be coming around the next 3 or 4 weeks to hold those. I do realize round 1 has kind of been kicked down kick a can down the road here on that, but the reason for that a lot of times because the projects and there's large funding gaps in those. So hopefully this round 2 will be able to supplement those and we'll move forward with those round 1 projects. And if not, like in Sherman County's case this morning, there were several projects that were already finished. We were able to fund more projects through the round 2. So, and I anticipate hopefully, knock on wood, round 3 hopefully. So, but yeah, I'll be looking forward to working with all you all on that and getting those together. And as always, KIPDA is here to administer those. We're here to help you guys with that because it is a new funding source, new nuances, new areas that we need to look at. So if you all are interested in having KIPDA administer that, just reach out to myself and we'll provide you with our KIPDA admin fee for that. I guess that concludes my report, Jerry.
All right, thank you. Your motion to approve.
Motion.
For a second. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Danielle, you didn't give your report there a minute ago, did you? Just,
Paul is teeing up my presentation. I'm gonna speak, I pulled up some notes from the PDI presentation real quick, so I didn't wanna misspeak earlier. So from the PDI webinar that we attended, so here are some high points of the growth. They said they're gonna have a second webinar to provide more detail on this information, but just so that you have this. So some of the highlights from that was that there's a 50% match requirement for the PDI process. And the match must be local and it will not count state or federal funds towards the match. Property must be publicly owned. There's a $500 application fee. The amount allocated to the county is not actually an allocation. It is just the maximum amount a project or projects can receive and is not guaranteed. The letter of intent to apply is August 5th. The application is due September 16th. Site visits will be scheduled the week of November 14th from the consultant that will be managing that. And again, this does not include the allocation for the mega site. So hopefully we'll be finding out some more information on it because we did have 2 that did present. We had project in Bullitt County and 1 in Jefferson County that did present to the governor that day. So I don't have it. Those are all the details that I have on that.
you're sending information out on this to everybody?
Yeah, I'll shoot you an email from the highlights of this, and I'll try to find, hopefully at the time, they did not have the website updated, so hopefully the KIPDA has updated the website with this updated information, so I'll make sure we do. Yes, sir.
So according to what you just said, you could not even use your COVID money as your ARPA money.
That's correct. They want actual local or private dollars to be the match.
It would have been saving hours.
You're the first person I thought of, Judge
And
Greenwood.
hours, and telling a citizen what I thought of them after they raised the price on the property 3 times in 6 weeks. And letting them know how greedy, how not nice the person they were. I wouldn't have to go through any of that. I'd probably still have 1 more friend.
Well, yeah, it's not right because we were, I don't want to say misled, might be too strong a word, but we were certainly led to believe that we were coming to make presentations to the governor and they were going to pick out some things to allocate this money to these different,
Well,
you
it
know,
definitely was,
yeah.
because like I said, like Shelley said, previously the PDI initiative only had $6 million. So it was wildly successful in getting $2 million.
I don't think this is the same money, do you?
It's the same.
She's not talking about the same thing. What she's talking about.
Yes, she is.
No, she is.
Yeah.
What she's talking, I know what she's talking. She's talking about what we went through a year or so,
That's
Judge,
the exam.
that some third party person came in there, David Mazanis, provided all this information to try to get this third party person to come look at this, know something about economic development and business parks. David spent all this time putting all this together, and all he did was come in and give a report back, and then KAED would listen to his recommendations as to whether we were worthy of any funding.
That's
And of
correct.
course, as John says, it's just a dog and pony show.
That is the.
Well, he's
exact-
talking-
That's the exact same program.
But here's
It's the
what-
exact same thing.
But here's what happened, John.
Yeah, but
It was 250,
No, that's
250, and then 50 million for his mega project. It was altogether, and that 50 million probably morphed into this more of a discretionary
yeah, but
thing where this other is being formalized.
as Judge just said, this 6 million did nothing to do with this 200 million that the governor's talking about.
It's the exact same program.
It's just, the legislature kind of changed from what the governor had put in. The governor was hoping it would be more controlled by the ED cabinet, but the legislator put it
Okay,
in the
well, then
PDI.
honestly,
I agree with you.
Well, how did 2.5 million shrink to 6?
Oh, no, it was, the PDI was 6, and this 250 million went into that PDI program. So to build that from 6.
The way it's functioning is, well, you tell them.
I will.
I'm just relaying, don't shoot the messenger. Now, don't shoot.
Okay, is,
Okay, so who do we have for that? Yeah,
All right.
bring in your brother-in-law.
well, you know.
Okay, now we're said division update. So I've been wanting to do this for a couple of years. We've just been wildly busy. So I just wanted to highlight the tremendous work that the said division has been doing over the last few years. It is quite phenomenal. As you all know, the increased funding opportunities that's come down the pipe, the amount of work that we've been doing in your community. So I know that you're all aware of this, but I actually wanted to sit down and actually show you all what that looked like. So I'm going to start from fiscal year 19 up through fiscal year 22. And so before I get into this, what I'm highlighting here is assistance that we have provided, and this is for projects that actually have a dollar amount tied to it. So this does not capture all technical assistance that we provide, so just projects with a funding amount tied to it. So in fiscal year 19, and I just want to clarify, in fiscal year 19, that was me and Justin Carter. Staff provided technical assistance on 17 projects, totaling almost $300 million. Submitted funding requests for 13 projects totaling $257 million, and received approval for 6 projects totaling $3.6 million. So we had a total of 7 contracts that we administered, 2 of those being our primary, our JFA and WRS, with 3 SRF admins, a CDBG project, and a GPS project. Moving into fiscal year 20, we did pick up 2 staff members in fiscal year 20. So said staff provided technical assistance on 18 projects totaling $60 million, submitted funding requests for 11 projects totaling $24 million, received approval for 7 projects totaling $12 million, just under $13 million. We had 10 contracts that we were administering, our 2 primary, JFA, WRS, 3 SRF projects, 2 GPS projects, a CDBG project, our hazard mitigation plan, and updating the county comp plan. Moving into fiscal year 21, that's when we start seeing an influx of stimulus funding and of opportunity there. So we had said staff provided technical assistance on 61 projects totaling $516 million, submitted funding requests for 58 projects totaling $472 million, received approval for 38 projects totaling $33 million. We were administering 11 contracts. I'm not going to break those down like I did before, but you can see they start increasing the diversity of the types of contracts that we are administering. Moving into fiscal year 22. Said staff provided technical assistance on 100 projects totaling $650 million, submitted funding requests for 46 projects totaling $567 million. And unfortunately, I can't give you our total awarded because we do not have the intended use plan from KIA just yet. So once the KIA's intended use plan comes out, we should be able to provide it. But as you can see, we are assisting upwards of between $600 to $700 million of projects. And so we are currently administering 74 contracts. That's our 2 primary, our JFA, our WRS, our EDA cares. We have 6 SRF projects, 12 utility systems grants projects, 11 cleaner water grants projects, 5 CDBG projects, an EDA project, our hazard mitigation plan, a GPS project, and 34 ARPA administration contracts. So to highlight that, from fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 22, we saw 433% increase in the technical assistance that we provided to counties. We saw a 957% increase in administration contracts. So when I said that we were busy and you all knew that we were out in your communities, it really is just, I just could not be more proud of how well staff kept up with the workload that workloads have literally increased 10 times. And we were able to hopefully show that and have a real impact in your community by doing that. And I just really wanted to take a minute to brag on the said division and to brag on the staff for doing that. And hopefully you all have been able to see a positive impact from that in your community. So I just wanted to take a minute to highlight the said division. And in this process of, we've also been able to, with the increased admin contracts and also the operating revenue for the division has quadrupled, we're on track to see that same path the next couple of years with the increase in admin contracts and the increase in JFA funding we're seeing. The staff will be doubling. The said division will be growing to a staff of 8. So just a phenomenal amount of movement and growth happening in said division. And I just wanted to take the time to really highlight that and to brag on my staff for a minute for the volume of work they've been keeping up with the last few years.
All right.
That's it. That's all I did.
All right.
I just wanted to brag on my staff for a minute.
All right, for sure, nothing wrong with that, all right. I guess these projects are in all of our counties and we may not even know.
Yeah, it is true.
You can't detail what's going where.
There's a ton of it. Yeah, I didn't get into all that today because we're at about close to 80 projects now, so that's a lot to do. But I'm happy that I can probably do that actually and send some of that to you by next week. But I do also want to highlight just a little bit that doesn't capture actually all the technical assistance that we provide. You know, so there's work ready applications, our SEDS plan update, the regional meetings that we hold, the state requests like the PDI request from the state, the intern oversight, the hub, the Resilient Indiana hub that we did, the broadband feasibility study that we oversaw, the resiliency and recovery plan that we're working on, varied research and data analysis that we do and hand off to counties. And it also doesn't take into fact, you know, when one of you yahoos called me at 7:30 in the morning once. So it doesn't capture, there's lots of stuff that we do that doesn't get captured in those numbers. So it's just really comprehensive, the volume of work that's coming out of this.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. I won't comment on that last comment. I don't know what to say about that, but that's yeah, right. Well, all yahoos here, please stand up. Identify you. Yeah. All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you. All right, good job. Thank you. All right, SEDS committee.
Yep. So the SEDS committee, we're updating the SEDS, our comprehensive economic development strategy requires a rewrite every 5 years. This is a rewrite year. So we have established a committee this year. It's been several years since we've been able to do that. So we've decided to get the committee started again. So the SEDS committee met on July 20th and will be assisting through the 5-year rewrite process. They approved 5 overall goals of the plan related to economic growth, workforce development, transportation, water and wastewater, and quality of life. The goals are to create a sustainable regional economic development strategy that encourages urban and rural collaboration, diversified growth, and entrepreneurial support. To foster a skilled and flexible workforce that successfully meets the needs of existing and emergent industries and technologies. Implement a sustainable and multimodal transportation system that improves connections efficiently and effectively while improving safety and accessibility for all users in the region. Maintain and strengthen current regional water and wastewater planning, including flow capacity needed to encourage economic development opportunities. And finally, to encourage and support the development of a region with a diversified economy where all residents can live healthy and productive lives. The subcommittees will be established for each of those goals, and the committee approved a lead for each of those subcommittees. The promoting economic growth goal will be headed by Ben Pratt of GLI. The workforce development goal will be headed by Cindy Reed of Kentuckiana Works. The transportation goal will be headed by Spencer Williams of KIPDA. Water and wastewater will be headed by Russ Rolls of Bourbon County Water District. And the quality of life goal will be headed by Devon Holt of Goodwill Industries. Lastly, the committee approved using economic data attained from SEDIC at the University of Kentucky and using demographic data from the 2020 census to develop regional facts for each county and the region to be utilized within the plan. The next meeting will be held on August 24th at 10:30 via Zoom. This concludes my report. Action is requested.
Is there a motion to accept the report?
Any questions?
Any questions?
I'll motion to
All right, motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the report, questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
On another note, real quick, I just want to announce that this is actually, will be my last board meeting. I have accepted a position with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, so I'll be next week is my last week, and I just want to take a moment to thank you all, thank each of you. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with every one of you and helping you meet the goals in your community. It has really been a really enjoyable 5 years here at KIPDA helping you all do that, and I will certainly miss you all. Well, some of you more than others.
Motion to deny the request.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
So I just want to take and say thank you guys. I've appreciated it very much and wish you all the best. For, yes, federal, the federal. Mhm. Yeah, they have an office here in Louisville. Oh, no. Still staying here. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Danielle. All right, number 13, Division of Social Services. Jessica. Did I skip somebody?
No, Trish Forbes is going to be presenting rather than Jessica.
Good afternoon. First, we're going to keep it short and sweet today. Just have two things on our agenda. So for our FY23 contracts, this constitutes authorization to increase the contract for legal aid. They have actually requested to double their 3E units being proposed for FY23. So their contract will go from $6,525 to $13,500 for those services. That's approval for that increase. So I guess I didn't, I'm sorry, they're increasing their units. That's why if there's no increase in unit price, they're going to double the services.
All right, is there a second? Thank you. All right, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
And the last request we have is to purchase 61 QB Junior exercise machines. So basically, they're like under the desk liftable machines for the senior centers. They're going to go to multi-purpose, Tri-County, and Highlands. And it is with ARPA funding. It's already been approved by Dale. So total for $18,239.
Motion.
Second. All right. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, that is- thank you.
All right. Fanfare update, Brittany. Pardon? Oh, okay.
So we had an awesome year with the Fanfare. We partner once again with the Louisville Metro Office of Aging and Disabled Citizens. So it was an awesome turnout this year. We once again had a lot of success with the different organizations that we partner with. So typically, like I told you all when I came last time, we try to start February this year. In past years, we started in April, so this year we want to get out there and get the word out earlier. So we started off in February, going around to different organizations, starting with Lowe's and Home Depot to get them to partner with us. And so we had different sponsors. We had Lowe's to be our business partner. They allowed us to purchase vans at cost. And we were able to secure about 645 vans this year for the KIPDA region. We also continue to partner with WFAY as our media sponsor, and they gave us several spots on WFAY to promote the event and promote us receiving vans. And then also our corporate sponsor this year was Care. So they were able to have their own drop-off location and pick-up location for individuals 60 years of age or older to pick up vans. And so a couple of staff members here at KIPDA pitched in and helped us out. So thank you all for your continued support of this event. I don't know about you, but it's been pretty hot to me. And so our seniors really have experienced that probably more than most. And so thank you all who donated fans. I appreciate that. And so we continue, this is our 7th year, and we've continued on. Even COVID couldn't shut us down. We continue to have this event during COVID as well. And just some more pictures. So we, once again, Care was a sponsor. Nurse Allie, she was the lead for Louisville Metro Office of Disabled Citizens, who was able to secure that donation for us and some other community partners. And so just to give you some overview, so when it started in 2016, I think we were about 660 fans. Our goal this year for Fanfare, since Allie and I were both new to this event, we were hoping to get to 1,000. We didn't reach that, but we did get to over 700 fans. So that was an awesome triumph for us in our first year. And once again, who can get a fan? So next year, if you know anyone who's 60 years of age or older or a disabled citizen, we'll continue on with this event. And they can contact us and come down to the Fanfare. We host it at the Edison Center every year, and they can come out and pick up a fan. If they don't live in Jefferson County, then we also distribute those to the outer counties as well. So there's a couple of our volunteers. They come in, the seniors can come in, get registered. We have a one-page registration form that they fill out, and then they pick up a fan that day. And then from getting the fan, we have vendors there as well. This year we partnered with Louisville Metro for doing a drug give back, so people can dispose of their prescription drugs responsibly. So we did partner with Louisville Metro LMPD for that as well. We had several vendors there, as you can see, where seniors can get information about services. And then some more of our volunteers, even little ones, out volunteering this year. And just some more pictures. So do you have any questions about the Fanfare?
I'm sure those fans are needed this year.
Yes.
Really hot.
It's an awesome event. So we will continue to do this event as long as we continue to support from the division. And so thank you all for having me today. You all have any questions about it?
Thank you, Brittany. Item number 15, fiscal year 23 agency-wide budget revision. Tom Pope.
Thank you.
Better not leave, Judge.
They usually.
All right.
That's the only reason I stayed around. All the money, you know, she's taking all the money with.
On the agenda item, the budget starts on page 40 in your attachments. And last month you approved a very preliminary budget that we had to submit a budget before the beginning of the fiscal year, which we had that approval to go ahead and enter that one. We were waiting on our funding information from Dale for the FY23 funding amounts, and we got that information on June 30th. And that's reflected here. We got another piece of information this morning when it was too late to incorporate it, but Tricia has looked at that. It's on some additional meals funding. And she's looked at that, and it won't have a significant And it won't have a negative impact, and it'll give us some more money. And we'll probably incorporate that just to give you something, but this is essentially what the budget's going to be, and it covers our in-house costs, and there might be some slight changes, but we definitely will have the money to do those things that we're planning on doing. The first page here on page 40 is the summary, group by division. It shows the total agency cost and with each division's operating in-house budget and the indirect costs that are spread across the program based on those are allocated based on each program's salaries and fringe benefits. You may recall that we had been doing salary adjustments effective January 1st. One of the reasons was we didn't have final numbers on salaries, but this year, Jared and I were talking, and with the inflation being what it was, we decided to see if we could afford to do something earlier this year. And I noticed the board wanted us to give a little bit bigger raises last time, but this budget has been prepared with a 5% increase that would be retroactive to July 1st, the beginning of the fiscal year, rather than waiting to do it midway through the year. We know it's not the inflation rate, but we think it's a step. When we did the increase last time, we were, I expressed concern about being able to maintain it in the future. With this new meals money, the legislature has approved some money for 2 fiscal years for these meals programs, and there's some admin money that comes with that, and that's guaranteed for 2 years. The Commissioner Dale has said that if the ads are successful, and the ads have done a good job of utilizing meals funding, and that she feels very comfortable. But if we are successful in carrying out those meals programs, which the ads as a group have been doing, including KIPDA, she thought that those funds would continue, and we feel that gives us enough comfort that we're comfortable going ahead with a 5% across the board to help with the inflation that everyone's facing. But the first page is the summary of what's being proposed. The next page is the final FY22 budget that was in place. The third page is the change from the 22 budget. And then, although they're hard to check to read, are the division budgets. And it breaks down by work elements, and but I know they're really hard to read.
And all this information can be shared separately. I think we emailed it out, Rachel emailed it out earlier also. So you do have that in your inboxes.
But it does show that the funding and expenses each division and the programs within the division. And the last part of the information, starting on page 52, it shows the sources of the funds within each division and compares to, again, the last budget, and shows those changes. Looking here at transportation, you can see there's a $1 million decrease in the STP funds. And the reason for that is when we do our mid-year budget, we'll incorporate carryover money for transportation, and that's not reflected here. So within STP, we carry over a lot because that's the van pool, and because we haven't been buying vans, we have a lot of carryover. But there's a lot of information in here, and I know, as I said, I know it's hard to see this in print, but it was sent out electronically, and it might be easier to read. If there's any questions anyone has either now or after looking at it, I'll be glad to answer.
And I'll just speak. I know that when we presented the budget at mid-year, the board, Judge Eisen specifically, Mayor Black had spoken about trying to give a pay increase that was going to keep up the rate of inflation. At the time, as Tom said, we were worried about sustainability after the numbers that we've received and some of the questions we have that have been clarified from our funders. We feel comfortable with presenting this 5%, which will be in line with what was requested by our board of directors back at the mid-year budget.
Do you have an idea of how much this extra 1%? What's the difference between what the 4% and the 5%? How much extra? You know, that $100,000 or what's that amount of money?
Well, it's looking at just the salary portion of it, it would be just the salary for every 1% would be about 50,000. And then the other fringe benefits are pretty firm, but the retirement expense and Social Security is based on a percentage of salary. So there's another $17,000 for each 1%. So it's about $67,000 for
Make this
every
change.
1%.
Yeah, okay. So a motion, we accept this budget revision?
Every 1% is costing $67,000.
Yes, sir.
Could we afford a 6% raise? Because CPI was 7%, 7 or something.
72 or something like that.
How about 6%?
You know, I don't know.
Well, let's see, we got a motion to approve this before we make a motion to, or somebody make a motion to do something. You want to make well, Tom doesn't know. They're comfortable. Okay, could you look later? Can we come back again if you and bring this up again? We can creep forward if you're not prepared to leap forward at this point, but you could still keep studying it and come back. And if it
I think that would be our preference, just from being good servants of public dollar, to be sure that we're able to.
yeah, it's. I think you're comfortable with the 5 right
We're comfortable
now.
with the 5, and we can explore the 6.
Yeah, well, I'd put another 67,000 in there.
The only reason I'm saying that because I think a lot of local governments, I know about 57% this year in their reevaluation of their own compensation.
Yeah.
So if local government officials took 7, why shouldn't these other people get 7? Because our cost of living is the same as is theirs.
Well,
So
our cash flow is different though.
what
Our cash flow is different.
then KIPDA?
Yeah, I mean, they're running off fees here. We're running off taxes.
Did KIPDA get any ARPA money?
Not direct ARPA, that went to service dollars primarily. Danielle's division in CD did through the economic development EDA, and that's where we hired a Jennifer who does all our ARPA administration. But that was really the only direct dollars we received, and most of that has gone to service.
Well, good thought, you know.
Yeah, we would always like to give more if we could, but we just,
But you can't afford it.
yeah.
You can't afford it.
We're gonna
Well,
have this
we
problem.
can't say we can't right now, but you know, we had started out looking at what might be, as we've been doing, another raise in January, and we were looking at maybe a 3% again, as they see what that did.
Like Judge Bowman did, they did immediate something, and they gave everybody an extra % or 2 or some other anniversary date with the agency that they
Right.
continue to. So you might look at something like that on employees anniversary date. They get an extra. So if you want. Otherwise, you want.
Well, we're all gonna have this problem again next year. I mean, inflation jumps up 9% or something. We're gonna all choke. And we won't be able to probably repeat the generosity of this year that everybody's tried to step up to. It's gonna be hard, but
I'll make that motion.
motion to,
I'll second it.
okay. So any further discussion on basically giving everybody a 1% raise there? One more, total of 5. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
All right. Personnel report, Kelly Cecil.
Thank you. So we had a couple new hires in July. The first one was Dustin Duncan, who's sitting over here. He's been hired as our grants compliance coordinator for our subdivision, effective July 11th. He earned a bachelor's degree in political science from Kentucky Wesleyan and a master's degree in international relations from Liverpool University.
comes KIPDA from San Diego University, where he works as the director of grants and budget communications. We also had another hire, Mary Beth Mulligan. She's been hired as a connector for the Connect program in the Division of Social Services. She earned her bachelor's degree in public relations and international affairs from Western Kentucky University. She transferred from Western, where she was a academic mentor and tutor in the Western Kentucky University Student Athlete Success Center. We have 2 resignations. Well, Hayden Candle resigned as CDS specialist effective July 20th. And we had another one over there in the purple blue dress. Danielle, whose last day will be next Friday. We have a few vacancies, grants administrator and planner in the division of SED, community economic development planner, which is a new position in the division of SED. 2 service advisors for the health and community-based waiver in social services, a case manager for the Shell Fee waiver in social services, and 3 new positions in our Aging and Disability Resource Center, which are nutrition assessors. These job descriptions can be found on our website. Currently, we have 81 full-time permanent and 2 part-time permanent. That concludes my report. If there are no questions requested.
Motion to approve Kelly's personnel report. Are there any questions on this? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I believe now we're at Jared's report, intergovernmental reviews.
We have 3 projects, A, B, and C. These projects have been distributed to for local review. There have been no comments, so these 3 projects can be taken together.
Motion to approve. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now,
My executive director's report. First, I see Joe Williams back there with the governor's office. Joe, welcome today. Do you have anything you'd like to share to the group?
Sure, why not? How many guys you can fire it that bother me? I'm used to it. My name is Joe Williams. I'm a field rep for Governor Bashir's office. First thing I want to say is I see a couple of judges in here. One of them looked out on me, so I was going to nail him. That I would like to say it's been a pleasure working with you guys. And it really has. They come to me personally. You've always been very nice to me. We've had great meetings and stuff like it. Didn't always get the answer you wanted. I sometimes didn't give an answer I wanted to get. But I do appreciate everything you've done. I know your counties appreciate it so very much. And again, I'd like to applaud you for your services out to the county. And for the people who get the ads, the employees of the ads, they do a lot more than these other guys do sitting at the table. We appreciate the ads. I've been recycled. I worked for Governor Steve this year. Then got sent home, said Merry Christmas. And I came back, Andy came back and hired me back. So I'm one of the old recycled guys. And my group, one of them was one of them that pushed for the ads to do a lot of things for us. Because we do know that you all care about people. I not only worked with KIPDA ad, I was Bluegrass, Lake Cumberland, about every one of them in the state. And the ads are very helpful, very extremely helpful. And we do appreciate everything you do. You know, the employees do, but they do go above and beyond. And I do know what you mean by answering the phone at 7 o'clock in the morning, but sometimes I answer at 2 o'clock in the morning. Everybody wants a favor. Don't worry, I'm used to it. I apologize, I'm a little more out. I've been up all night because of the flooding. I've been communicating with other field reps. Matter of fact, I had a judge in Knott County who called me just a little while ago. When he grabbed his daughter to get out of the house, the water's already knee deep. You know, so took his house also. It's a very tragic event. We did a declaration, you know, for disaster and that type of stuff. I am your field rep anytime you need to call me. Also, I do work with cities. As a matter of fact, we were talking, I've got a meeting next Wednesday with the Louisville League City to discuss some issues with them. And let me explain something to you real quick, okay? I'll make my job brief. You can ask me about anything you want to. You won't get an answer from me. Okay? My job is not to give you the answer. My job is to get you the answer. So I'm not gonna let this old guy sit up there and wait till you tell you something he knows nothing about. I try to get you to the people who actually know the answer can get it to you. I want it to be exact. I don't want, well, we think or we know something like that. That is my job. My job is to make you, not to make you look good, to make sure you don't look bad. Okay? So anytime you have a question, feel free to call me. And again, you can fire shots at me. I don't care. Be careful, I may shoot back up. All right. So again, I do appreciate being a do like A's. I apologize for not being here so often, but I said it to the governor quite a bit. And I've called Jerry several times, hey, I'm gonna make you meetings, and all of a sudden, scheduling calls and all, you're not making a meeting, you gotta go to the governor somewhere. So I do apologize for that. But again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. I'd also like to recognize Ms. Stacy Rockaway with Congressman Massey's office. Stacy, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Just tuning in, happy to be here. If there's anything that we can do on the federal level, let us know.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you being here as always. I also want to, as we've gone through earlier, thank Danielle. Danielle has been a tremendous asset to this agency and our region. So thank you for everything you've done, both moving this agency forward, plus all that you've done through the community. So thank you and best of luck in your next endeavor. I did have two other items that I wanted to ask. At our ad directors meeting earlier this month, we had the new secretary of the Economic Development Cabinet, Jeff Knoll. He is recently started, I think he started in May or June, and he has reached out because he wants to come out and meet at each area development district individually to meet with some of the elected officials. And the request I had for you all is if you want to do that as part of a board meeting, or if you want me to schedule a separate meeting for him to come out and you all can meet with him. So again, open to the table, which your all's preference would be.
All right.
Do you, is there any guidance on how you want me to reach out? Again, we could schedule a standalone meeting or have him come to a board meeting.
Bring you to a board meeting.
Okay. The second thing is you will see in your board packet the toll resolution. This was presented in June by Mayor Black. We had it signed by our chairman Vogel on July 7th. I'd like to thank Kevin Beatty and the town of Clarksville for helping provide the language that we adapted to meet the KIPDA's needs, but you'll find it in your board packet. This has been distributed to the powers that be, as well to Ms. Muldoon and Jeff O'Brien with Louisville Metro, who have been spearheading this effort. So I wanted everybody to have a copy of this resolution and know that we would move forward with it. So
I received this copy, printed it out, and I was thinking about this, and I'm just wondering if there's anything in the country that, in the event that this cannot be done, do you know of any cities in the same situation that maybe exempt neighboring counties from these bridges within, say, a 75-mile radius that would be exempted from these tolls? The rest of the country pays them to help pay for these bridges, but it seems like to me they would exempt 4 or 5 counties on the Kentucky side, 4 or 5 on the Indiana side, and that would make maybe economic sense that we move back and forth across the river locally with no expense to the transportation, economics, the restaurants, everything like that. I don't know if there's any thing out there in the country that allows that to occur or not.
Andy, do you know of any precedent like that?
No, I don't. And the unfortunate reality of some of that is that it kind of, unfortunately, it's working the other way, right? Because of electronic tolling, taking a picture of our license plates every time we go across the bridge. When we have a Kentucky plate or an Indiana plate on our vehicle, they know who we are a little bit better than they know if you're coming from Chicago or coming from Alabama up and down I-65. And so I believe there's issues with, I don't know what they call it, a good name for it, but freeloaders. That is the benefit. You know, it's easier for us, for state government, Kentucky and Indiana, to enforce those tolls when they get a picture of your license plate. So I don't know of any systems like that. It's an interesting thing because there's nobody that feels stronger about that than I do. That is we built these bridges and it's probably stifled the cross river mobility, not enhanced the cross river mobility in a perverse way. Due to tolls, simply due to tolls.
But if the federal state says there's no way we did it, it's got $3 billion worth of debt, would they possibly look at the ability to put together an interlocal agreement that could track that through license plates and whatever to exempt this cross river traffic that we need in this area?
I don't really, I don't want to, I'm unable to say yes or no on that one, but it's curious. It's an interesting idea, and the revenue would go, way down instantly, as you know. But if we could enforce, if they could enforce it better on those out-of-state plates, we'd be in, that would give us a world of help. The reciprocity with the different tolling agencies across the country, what's an easy pass, what's the little stickers that some of us have on our cars, local passes, if you will. It's a bigger, there's a lot more in play than this. You know, and in Indiana alone, there's pressure to keep the tolling business rules, I guess, same down here as they do in the Indiana toll road that crisscrosses. I think it's I-80 at the very top of the state, connecting Chicago with Toledo, let's say. So there's different pressures at hand for sure.
Maybe you could get a state tax deduction on your state taxes or something.
Be interesting. Be interesting. I don't know that it's completely unprecedented, but I'd say that's it probably is.
All right. Sheriff?
We have 2 travel items for consideration. These will be found in your board packet and the executive director's report. The first, there's an area that says it's for Randall Emery, but it's actually myself attending. We do, the area development district directors meet monthly. We usually go to Frankfurt, but 2 times a year we go to the east and the west to keep the directors from those sides of the state from having to travel to Frankfurt and incur the cost. So this is for the September meeting. It's in, I think, Lake Barkley at the state park. September 7th to 8th, it's the regular meeting, plus we're bringing in the Southeast Regional Directors Institute to do a strategic planning session for our network. So that total cost is estimated at $365. The second travel item for consideration is the SE4A. This is the Southeast Area Agency on Aging Conference in Amelia Island. It's for 2 staff members, Jessica Elkin and Trish Forbes. And that's a total cost of $32.55 for the 2 of them to attend. So action is requested based on your all's consideration for those 2 travel items.
Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion in the middle. It's just beautiful.
Come with us.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been there.
I've never been there. I've heard great things.
Oh, it's terrific. Absolutely.
Looking very forward to spending
Sure.
time with the Southeast College.
Take all the tours.
Do we have a second on that yet?
Second.
Motion to approve and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And finally, just our meetings for next month. We have the Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee, August 10th at 12:30.
What about your
1 o'clock. Okay, thank that correction. The Transportation Policy Committee will be August 25th at 12:30 here in the KIPDA boardroom and on Zoom. And the August KIPDA Board of Directors meeting will be later that afternoon on the 25th at 2 o'clock, also here in the room and on Zoom. This concludes my report. Thank you all for coming. It's great seeing everybody being back in this room.
All right.
Before you have a motion to adjourn, I want everyone to know that KIPDA is going to lose an amazing, phenomenal young lady. And Danielle, she's been very good for us and in Shelby County. And I know you all, anyone who can stand up and stand alone with John Logan Brent will be very, very successful. But I want to add to that, the entire team is phenomenal. Judge Riley and I had a meeting earlier with a couple of you. I can't sing your praises enough. You all do a phenomenal job, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
I think I can put that on our resume.
Please. Yes. I'll sign.
Well, Danielle's departure reminds me of a time I also worked at a place and left the company very shortly after I referred to the board of directors as a bunch of yahoos, but what quite to say. Well, good one.
We didn't know she was getting ready to resign in the next agenda item.
Right, yeah. That was well timed. All right. Motion to adjourn.